Welcome to Indie Scot News Review of the Week. Today's guests are Karen Kelly, author of the We Detour blog, Michelle Ferns, formerly of SNP, now an ALPA party member, and Gordon Millar, who runs a small tax accountancy practice and who, as recently as 2021, was a member of the SNP's National Policy Development Committee. Welcome all.
Hello.
Afternoon, Peter.
You're all very welcome. The Indie News this past week has been defined by 3 video interviews. For our first topic, we start with an interview that led to the story, Why We Can't Just Walk Out of Westminster. Dr. Philippa Whitford spent almost the entire hour with John Drummond on the TNT show, explaining the powerlessness of SNP MPs at Westminster, only to suggest they had to stay and wait for permission to leave. Here's a short video clip.
The obvious question that people are raising, Philippa, is this. If it's such a mess, why do you stay there and effectively endorse it? Why don't you just quit and come home and say, to heck with you, we're not going to put up with this anymore?
I'd be very tempted. If I didn't have to go next Monday, I'd be a very happy bunny. But we're not an abstentionist party. I think if you're going to do that, you need to stand on that basis. People need to vote for you on the basis that they will not have any direct physical representation in the parliament. I don't think you can take votes as representing people and then just decide that you're not going to. And Sinn Féin, as you know, don't take their seats. And what I saw during the 5 years of Brexit evolving was that Northern Ireland did not have a proper voice in the House of Commons, and the only voice that was there was the DUP.
Interestingly, Northern Ireland got the deal Scotland wanted, even though Sinn Féin. How could a Westminster exit be used tactically? What could be done? We're not thinking abstentionism halfway through. You can't just sort of make it up as you go along. But a tactical withdrawal, how could that work? Karen, got any ideas?
If they really want to take a stand in independence, then they really need to come up the road. How they do that is beyond me.
Well, I see your point, that if you haven't said you're going to be abstentionist, you can't just walk out. It's a bit like these resolutions that keep coming up at conference that say we want, the Westminster government should devolve this power, and so the whole thing is pointless. And so there comes a stage where, I don't think we should be waiting till the next Westminster election. Okay, you can't just walk out, but you can say, if this happens or that happens, or if you don't do this, then we will go. I'm not quite sure what the triggers would be, but we should be thinking along those lines. Yeah. Which is kind of a halfway house between being an abstentionist but we should be doing something to get ourselves taken seriously. Yeah.
Michelle, any thoughts?
I suppose I'm coming at it from a point of view that before I was elected myself, and I worked for politicians, and I had I had the opportunity, bad luck, whatever way you want to put it, of spending a fair bit of time in Westminster and seeing how it works. And that was at the point where we had 56 from 59 MPs. And I could tell you in the Scotland Act, in terms of those, every amendment that was hard fought for, running up to the table office at 1 o'clock in the morning for, the late bell and divisions, and the outcome of that was that those 56 MPs were able to deliver pretty much hee-haw, pretty much nothing. Other than in terms of stunts, you'll remember there was a time, trying to remember specifically what it was, a couple of years ago where the SNP group did get up and walk out of the chamber, and that caused a bit of a stushy. Right, but rather than going why I think that we absolutely have zero impact there, I'm a councillor. I judge things on outcomes. When we deliver things, you test. What was the impact of the things that you did? So that would be my starting point. So whether it's 56 or whether it's the feeble 50 Labour MPs that we had in the past, what Scotland MPs will learn first of all in Westminster is that they'll get whatever the party or government votes for. I think the SNP initially, when we went down, when I was in the SNP, I think that we thought because there wasn't that same really combative, adversarial attitude between the Labour Party in England and the SNP and the Labour Party in Scotland, where, of course, we have the Bain principle, which is that anything that the SNP would vote for, even had it been a previous Labour policy, Labour would vote against it because it was the kind of, but we didn't have that kind of attitude from the English Labour MPs. And I think there was a real feeling of an opportunity to build, a collective sort of a wedge to attack the Conservatives.
Yeah.
So I think that tactically there was in the beginning, until it was proved that didn't work, of course, there was reason to think that might have been a possibility, and there was good reason for pursuing that opportunity in my view, from a pragmatic point of view. What we did with that is absolutely zero. I mean, anybody who still watches Prime Minister Questions will see that the Tories don't even stay for Scottish questions sometimes. And if they stay for the question, they leave sometimes halfway through the supplementary. And that, in short, is how Scotland is viewed. When I went down to Westminster, I thought, the atmosphere will be so hostile because I'm a fundamental nationalist. I want independence yesterday. They'll be hostile to me. Do you know what they did? They didn't hate me. They nothinged me. And that's pretty much what they do in Scotland. They nothing us for a joke. It's something that you have to stay about and go through the motions of pretending that they're listening. What you could do is, I suppose, use lots of Westminster Hall debates and try to build those relationships and those networks with politicians and other parties that might come and support you. And obviously, I'm going to speak for my own party here. Our two members of Parliament do that regularly, securing Westminster Hall debates on a weekly basis, bringing up issues that are important in Scotland. So should we halfway through? No. Should we be abstentionists halfway through a term? I think you would have to put that in a manifesto. You would have to put that before the people before you would do that. But while we're there, certainly, call them stunts if you like, we could react to Westminster's disrespect for Scotland, I think, by doing that a lot more in the chamber and treating them how they treat us.
I thought it was very revealing that Dr. Whitford drew parallels with modern day Sinn Féin and not events in 1918, because even the Irish Parliamentary Party, who were then doomed, exited Westminster. They withdrew representation during a constitutional crisis. And then when they were swept away later that year, Sinn Féin didn't even, then they decided not to return to Westminster and set up the first Dáil. I'm just wondering, Karen, when the vow was unfulfilled and there were 56 of 59, surely at that point something should have been done instead of meekly accepting it.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. They were sent down there to settle up, no settle in. And for the first few months, I would say yes, they did. But then they've got too comfortable. I don't support them anymore. I was in the SNP, but I quickly left when I realised that Nicola Sturgeon is not, in my opinion, she's not for independence at all. She's not. No. And obviously, I've not joined Alba, but yes, so I like people. Sorry, Michelle, I like people who are at Alba. I like Alec, I always have. So I was quite happy and I was quite glad to see him coming back. And as I said, it's a great big thorn in the side. But that was the time to go down there. That's what they were sent down there. In my opinion, they were sent down there to settle up. And but as I said before, there was things that they did, like the rape clause and stuff like that, where we wouldn't have known. And another thing it does is
you still get that, Karen. You still only get see when you say they did something. What do you mean by that?
They showed it up.
They showed it up, but they weren't able to change policy.
Oh no, they can't change anything. Their new policy getting changed, but we would have known nothing about it. Had it not been them down there. But now they don't do, in my opinion, they don't do anything at all. They're down there, collected wages and off they go.
Moving on, another story that became an interview instead of an interview that became a story was Chris Hanlon's piece in the Scott National on Devo-max. The newspaper headline was ex-SNP policy chief backs third option on IndyRef2 ballot paper. Speaking on Scottish Prism Sunday with Roddy McLeod, Chris said his piece was a response to Craig Murray, Kenny Farquharson, among others, and that he wanted to frame the debate. Here's a short video clip of what he said.
I want independence, but I'm a popular sovereignty fundamentalist. If the consensus was that they would prefer to take it more slowly and to go with a Devo-max option, then I want to make sure that the option that's presented to them is Devo-max, that it's not some con. I do genuinely think that, it's something that the people of Scotland, as our sovereign, have the right to reject. You can't just say, oh, we don't want to put that on the ballot because we might risk losing because it's on the ballot. That's not how democracy works. If that's what the people of Scotland want, that should be what they get.
Gordon, does Chris have a point, or is he in the wrong party? Should he be in a Devo-max party?
No, he shouldn't. Policy Development Committee having meetings almost weekly with Chris. And I don't believe in coincidences, but it's a bit unfortunate. He has a bit of a bee in his bonnet about the will of the Scottish people and what it means. And he's quite sincere in thinking that because Devo-max would probably win if we somehow makes it the will of the Scottish people. And I just don't see that at all. And now to any of the other people who've talked to Chris about it. But he's come across as kind of laying the groundwork for the leadership to say at some later stage, have to take Devo-max because it's all we can get. And I think that's a bit unfortunate because I don't think that was his intention. But it's notable the people who have spoken out. Mike Russell is yesterday's man. Remember, they're hardly senior figures. All the senior figures have kept quiet, which adds to the kind of conspiracy feeling that maybe this is what they want to do after all. I don't see, and nobody else I know sees, that people campaigning for any moral obligation to discuss any other option. I mean, if you're the marketing department of Mercedes-Benz, you're spending 100% of your time. You don't put adverts out with a caveat that maybe in certain circumstances our customers might be better with Volkswagen. You concentrate on what you want to sell. Yeah.
That's why I asked if he's perhaps in the wrong party. There is no. Maybe there should be a Devo-max party in Scotland. I don't know. Maybe Labour will morph into that at some point. Michelle?
I think we already have them. They're called unionist parties. And actually, Devo-max, don't we already have it? Don't we already have Devo-max, according to a certain Mr. Brown? Should we be surprised that Murray Foot, who's now been so warmly welcomed into the fabric of the SNP, is now punting DejaVuDevo? Because I'm not surprised by one bit. I can tell you that. I do know. I don't know Chris personally. I know a lot of people who do know him, so I'm not. I couldn't comment on what his personal feelings are or are not. As an observer, what seemed to me, because I'm with Gordon, I don't believe in coincidences, especially not in politics. I absolutely do not believe in coincidences. Was Chris sent out as some sort of lightning rod, to test the water, to normalise the idea, or even just to introduce the topic into the conversation? So I wouldn't want to suggest that Chris has been, but that leaves me in an awkward position, because if I say that Chris has been used to do that, then that paints Chris as like some sort of useful idiot, which I'm sure he's not. But if he's not that, then he must see that, he might not be the leader of the Policy Development Committee, but he's still on it, and he's still a member of the NEC, as far as I'm aware. And as somebody who was only a lowly councillor, I could tell you if I wanted to go to Glasgow Times with 2 lines, I would need to get permission before I sneezed, before I went for a pee. The fact that the idea that I would have a front page spread in the National without any brief of the whip's office, I say this as a former whip, because I would be knocking at chapping at people's door going, what excuse me? You know, I know how the party works.
Yeah.
The idea that Chris has done this on his own seems it seems unrealistic given my knowledge of how the party operates.
Yeah.
But what's most, I think, telling above everything, and Gordon pointed this out, there's been no disavowing of Chris's, so not from any senior figures, as you say, Michael Russell, President, you know. I think people stopped, myself included, stopped listening to Michael a long while ago, unfortunately. Yeah. But Nicola's not out saying it. Kirsten Otto's not out saying, none, you know, Hamza Yusuf's not out saying, all what they're saying is we still believe in independence, but they're not out dismantling the argument against Devo-max. As I say in the beginning, I'm a fundamentalist, a fundamental nationalist. I don't believe gradualism works. More than anything, I'm for measuring outcomes, impacts. What do you get? What did you get out for the work that you put in? I don't know what Chris is. I couldn't speak to Chris's motivations for putting it out there. But the most telling thing for me is that the First Minister of Scotland has not came out to say this is absolutely not what we believe or what we're pursuing. That tells me something. And still in the SNP, people have been put out for worse, for less, much less.
Credit to him for turning up on Robbie's show, I must say.
Yeah.
And he did specifically mention Craig Murray. Now, Craig Murray said that he had heard from his contacts at Westminster, and Craig is very well connected. He doesn't make things up. He would never have said this. He said that feelers have been put out from the SNP officially with regards to a third option on the ballot paper. So a very, very interesting interview with Roddy, and I recommend anyone watching who has not watched it, get over to the Prism YouTube channel and watch the interview there. Okay, moving on. In the past few days, we've had the unedifying sight of John Nicholson taking another swipe at Joanna Cherry and others. Green Party members kicking Andy Whiteman when he's down and unemployed. This is on top of almost daily rants by Pete Wishart against Yes supporters and other pro-Indy parties. Is abusive behaviour now endemic and sanction-free among the current SNP and their friends in the Greens?
I wouldn't know what's going on with Pete Wishart or John Nicholson because they've blocked me on Facebook, on Twitter, so I don't know. But they don't seem to like people going against them. What they seem to be doing is try to kind of divide people into camps. Maybe I'm not the best one to answer this just now because I just don't know any more about the SNP. I don't pay attention because I can't, because it just it's like it just ignites a paper on me and I just go off on a tangent. Do you know, all the people that I used to really, really respect in the SNP, I don't respect anymore. Pete Wishart, no. John Nicholson, no. Because it's as if they don't like an alternative voice. And what they've done to, what's his name, Andy Whiteman, I just, honest to goodness, I'm shocked. I'm shocked at just how toxic they've become.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to kind of hold back because it's not my show. You know,
you can, well, it's, you know, there's, you can, it's speak freely here. Yeah. Yeah. Gordon, is abusive behavior endemic and sanction free? It almost seems as though certain people can do what they want.
That's been obvious for a while, and people like John Nicholson they're particularly guilty of not just being abusive, but being unable to take it. He was unblocked by him. He made some sarcastic comment when Wings, and so I said, well, Wings has done more than than anybody else for independence except Alex Salmond. What exactly have you done? And he blocked me. Didn't like somebody having a go at him. But there's you can't have a split. You can't have Nicola Sturgeon doing absolutely nothing about League, like Joe McAlpine and Joanna Cherry, and then expect to enforce any kind of discipline. But one of the reasons I'm no longer in the SN I ended up on the wrong side of this. So when I was getting stick from London branch, standing for the elections on the good guys list and wrong side of the SNP civil war, it wasn't okay for me to say anything about Nicola Sturgeon or anything about any of the other leadership or the SNP. But it was perfectly fine for what we liked about Joanna Cherry, and me trying to argue that position led to me, first of all, getting forced out of London and eventually out of the SNP. I was going back
because you criticised the internal...
Yes, because I wondered if it might come up. And I went back through the London branch WhatsApp, and it's really quite odd, because everything was focused around absolute loyalty to the party and to Nicola Sturgeon, and nothing at all about independence. Or nobody replied if you said that Joanna Cherry was our most capable. You would get, yeah, but she's transphobic. Nobody would actually engage, and eventually, like I say, I got told off the election campaign for being too negative and for supporting parties that were standing against the SNP. And was saying, Alba could be a really good thing here. We don't need to have them as enemies. They're a real opportunity, and they're not standing against the SNP anyway. So yeah, there is a very, very bullying element, even at branch level, in the SNP.
Which you yourself now have experienced. Is that the reason why?
Is that the reason why?
That was the reason why you're no longer in the MP?
Yeah,
you were ostracised?
I left the London branch. I was the political education officer in the London branch, and before the AGM came up, we were having a big argument, and I was being criticised by everybody for saying things that I thought were perfectly okay, endorsing the gerrymandering of candidates. They were endorsing Joanna Cherry being stigmatised. They were endorsing both votes SNP. You don't to work out that both votes SNP was a disastrous strategy. And they were boasting about converting people, because they went up to Edinburgh, decided people to both votes SNP. And when I wouldn't go along with that, I just got told that I was a different party. I was not, party policy said this was what we had to do, and if you didn't like it, goodbye. That led to me leaving London. But what led to me leaving the SNP entirely was kind of being gerrymandered out at the conference, because people wanted me off the... and I was astounded, because I didn't think I was important enough to be forced out the way I was.
Sure.
So you're initially, if I remember right, your question was, is that endemic, that abusive type of attitude? Given what we've seen from the Greens and from John Nicholson, not just the last week, but for some time, in Pete Wishart for as long as anyone can remember. Pete's a particular case, because of course he's been there 20 years. Yeah. He's been taking a salary from Westminster for 20 years and a very nice pension and a very nice lifestyle. Thank you very much. So really, Pete's in with the bricks down there. He's got lots and lots of friends from lots and lots of parties that he goes on social media to attack. But he's also for having a cup of tea and a nice chat with him. He's in with the bricks there. So Pete, I apologise if people think I'm speaking disrespectfully, but I'll keep my respect for people I actually respect. And Pete Wishart's not one of them. John Nicholson, his main problem is that Joanna Cherry has done something absolutely unforgivable. She's been competent. She's been competent beyond the brief that she was given. I'll give you a wee story from a conference in Aberdeen a few years ago when Joanna Cherry came out to thunderous applause after successfully taking the British government to court for the proroguing of Parliament. One, she was told not to by the SNP, not to push that. Joanna did push that, and the Westminster group, I think there was probably some resistance to her pushing it from there, making herself too, you know, too star-like. Anyway, she came out in conference to thunderous applause. And one person in the conference turns to the next one and says, one woman turns to the next one and went, "That's her. She'll not be for long, far too popular." And so it proved. Joanna Cherry's most unforgivable crime is being competent, being intelligent, having a good grasp of strategy and how to use it to get what you want, to win. No, so if you have somebody like that standing next to someone who's not delivering, who's not using mandates given, who seems to be looking for permission or for nations solutions, the last thing you want is somebody like Joanna showing the Scottish people that there's a different way to approach this. So I think that's what Joanna's biggest crime is. It's nothing to do with transphobia and it's nothing to do with being a bigot, which she is absolutely not. She's none of those things. Now, I don't know Joanna personally. I couldn't tell you what kind of person, nice person otherwise, but I can tell you as a politician, I think she's highly competent, highly skilled and highly successful. And I think that's what the problem the SNP have with her. As to the Greens, I mean, John Nicholson, I mean, let's be fair. That level of snark put him on a level with what I consider wanes in the Green Party, you know, and giving out these self-appointed virtue police. You know, they decide who's on the right side of history and who's on the right side of an argument based on what is that based on your whole 17 and a half years on the planet, son, or is that you know, have you read a lot about, you know, I'm not in the business of taking lectures from wee morons. And again, I'm not going to be respectful to people I don't respect. If you can only play the man and you can't play the ball, same as John. And his level of politics are on the same infantile level as far as I'm concerned. If you can't argue with the substance of the issue and you've got to go to personal, you've already lost the argument. You've got nothing to say that I'm interested in. I don't have to agree with you to be interested in what you're saying, because I think debate is a thing about debate is it implies that thing that there's a winner and a loser, that there's a gotcha. You know, somebody's going to give the wrong answer and kind of, there's no room for actual discussion. In my time in politics, especially as workforce convener, I'm a pragmatist. I understand that compromise, a bit of give and take means that most times everybody leaves with a wee bit of what they've got. But John in particular, I feel, is an attack dog for the SNP. So they've tried it with all the young team, including, I mean, here Councillor Spears has now left, whether she's left the party, but she's standing down from politics and her roles. She's emblematic of a group of people in the SNP who have jumped up and down and said, we absolutely demand you get rid of Joanna. That would be a terrible move, and it would be optically, it would be absolutely impossible to explain, given that, as I say, she's one of our more competent MPs. So I think given that's not worked, it's a bit like Chris. I think John's been given the nod. He's been told it's okay. Yeah. To attack Joanne. I mean, imagine doing that to a colleague. Imagine doing that to a colleague you really disliked. Never mind one that's competent. Putting her on the same par as Nigel Farage. I mean, that's despicable. And I mean, if that's your talent, is there no beginning to your talents, John? You're a politician. You're supposed to influence people. You're supposed to win votes. If you're trying to prove how good you are at alienating people and losing friends, then great job. If you're, but as far as I'm concerned, it's snark. It's where you go when you've got nothing intelligent to say. And if that's all you've got to offer, you know, we think you're dead bad. Ha ha ha! I'm not dead funny. You're supposed. Is that the view of your constituents? Did you remember when you got elected? You're not there to elect your own hobby horse. You're there to represent the views of your constituents. I'm sure a good few of them will hold Joanna Cherry in high esteem. So yes, I think he's been given. I think he's been given the nod, and I think it's despicable.
Yeah. Well, he's up for re-election in 2 years. If we get that far, of course, there's going to be an independence referendum next year. Free by 23 is on your blog.
That's on mine. I haven't written my blog just now. I took a break from it because I just couldn't. All the arguing, all the infighting, all the, you know, it's just, I thought I need to just get away and come back from this fresh.
Well, it brings us on to another topic. Another Scottish election looms in May, and once again, Nicola Sturgeon is promising action on independence. Front page splash on last Sunday's National assured us SNP in new move to step up spring indie push. Are we experiencing a series of deja vu moments from the SNP every time an election comes around? Gordon, you're back.
Yes. I mean, this has been said before, it'll be said again. And if you think about it, it's impossible anyway. We're down the Section 30 route. I think Denise Finlay has already published a blog on how the timing would be impossible anyway. And if we do anything else, no preparation. I mean, I've sat on the Policy Development Committee for a year trying to kickstart some sort of proper preparation. And we haven't done any. Nicola's secret plan is concerned. I mean, look at something like D-Day. That was secret, sort of. Build up of troops, training, preparation. You couldn't hide. And if we were seriously going for 2023, we would be pursuing funding. We were trying to reach out to the broader Yes movement. We're doing none of it. So it's all just a lie. It's not going to happen.
Well, the First Minister insists that it is going to happen, and here's how she said so.
I intend to do everything that is within my power to enable that referendum to happen before the end of 2023, and we will set out exactly what that means in terms of the date of introduction of legislation when we've taken the detailed decisions around that.
Karen, are you convinced?
No, every time I see Nicola Sturgeon and every time I hear her saying something like that, all I see is, I don't see Nicola, I just see a big carrot sitting there, dangling the carrots. The carrots come out every time they're going for they're going, there's an election coming up. Out comes the carrots. Let's dangle these. No, I'd really, as Gordon said, there's no preparation or anything been done. And then, the SNP supporters kept telling me, but when I had she's got a secret plan. I says, well, it must be that secret. Even she doesn't know it. Even she doesn't know her secret plan. So no, in my opinion, it's more carrot dangling. Yeah. They come out every time there's an election just so that and people fall for it.
Yeah.
They fall for it. I'm just hoping that Alba just kick their butt, if you know what I mean. Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
I think that's what they need. I don't want unionist parties, but I want a party to absolutely say, well, this is what we're going to do. What has the SNP done? And because I think that's what they need. Because for so long they've had the road to themselves. Yeah. Well, here's hoping that Alba come in a great big bus, because Nicola just likes her buses. But have you noticed it's her picture that's on it, Yeah. So I'm just hoping. I don't want to pin all my hopes, but I think something needs to be done, so that they wake up and think, no, wait a minute, we can't take the people for granted that we have been doing, and they've been doing it, but they've been getting so arrogant on it. They're so arrogant. Not only them, but their supporters are arrogant as well. I says they must be outdoing one another in their arrogance. Yeah. So I'll be watching and I'll be listening carefully, because my vote's up for grabs. Yeah.
Gordon, how do you think the SNP has morphed into a cult of personality party?
It certainly has.
Has it been on purpose? Has it been a tactical decision?
I don't know. I mean, I noticed, I went up to Edinburgh to campaign, and it was miserable, and all the activists were complaining about why can't the SNP rebut things? Why are we not? Then I went again in 2019. It was a completely different experience. Everybody was driven, positive. But when I came back, I suddenly realised that nobody going on had actually been speaking about independence. It was all about how much will we reduce Ian Murray's majority? How many of our seats will we get back? Yeah. It's like that, so ever since. And it's like the SNP members have somehow been persuaded that keeping Nicola Sturgeon in power or being the biggest party in Scotland are ends in themselves and not a stage on the way to independence. And we reverse that.
Well, moving on, the interview raised another question about GRA, and the First Minister's response has come in for some criticism, with some accusing her of blatant lying on screen. This has not become a newspaper front page story so far. Here is the clip.
This is about not whether or not somebody should be able to legally change gender. That can happen already. This is about trying to ensure there is a process that allows that to happen, that does not stigmatise, that does not traumatise trans people, and that is much more dignified and respectful of their rights.
Do you think the Scottish public will agree with you on that?
Well, actually, the Scottish public overwhelmingly re-elected the government on this manifesto commitment. I think much of
this one, surely.
Polling evidence around this suggests that there is not the opposition amongst the Scottish public to this, as some may suggest there is.
Question: she's been accused on social media of telling two blatant lies in that clip.
Blatant lying, yes, that is. The manifesto commitment was for reform of the GRA. The manifesto commitment mentions nothing about self-ID, absolutely nothing. It doesn't mention that, and another blatant lie, because that's true. Even though it was freezing, I could pick out about 4. So in terms of what the First Minister is suggesting, is there's overwhelming support for this in Scotland. It's just not true. It's not true. I've asked repeatedly. So you'll remember there was a consultation on GRA. Now we're past 18 months. We should have and could have had the results for those that consultation. The reason we don't have the results from it, because the results are not the correct results. They're not the results that the SNP want. So I've asked repeatedly, who did you consult? Because my understanding is a lot of the organisations who were consulted are not in Scotland. I asked how many responses were from individuals and how many were from groups and lobbying groups. Not got the answer. Out those responses that were from individuals, how many of them were resident in Scotland? Again, no answer. And the reason I'm asking these questions is because I already know the answer. I know that a great many of those individuals are not in Scotland who are responding. And overwhelmingly, the individuals in Scotland that are responding are against self-ID. What I also know is there's been three polls done over the last, I think that's now just about 2.5 months, 2 panel-based and 1 surveyation. And all good samples, I think the surveyation one was over 2,000 people. The 3 of those in a short period of time, falling on by different organisations. So one's James Kelly, I think his was a panel-based one, and 2 others have showed that overwhelmingly there's huge opposition to self-ID. Certainly, I don't think people are overwhelmingly against the idea that people should be allowed to live with dignity and respect, and nobody should be getting, subject to violence. That's something, a common thing we could all agree on. All right, but having said that, the idea of that people just, because I'm up for a discussion on it, I'm happy to hear different points of view. What I'm not okay with is being told that any conversation about safeguarding, any conversation about, because women's groups were very much excluded from these consultations. There were 5 lobby groups that spoke to Shirley Ann and Somerville, and none of them were women's groups. So, of course, you already know the answer. If you already know the answer that you're going to get, how meaningful is that consultation? So that's a lie. I do not believe that the whole of Scotland overwhelmingly supports self-ID. In fact, quite the opposite. And every time Scottish people are given the opportunity, once it's explained to them what self-ID means, especially in terms of safeguarding for women who are in, trying to access services such as domestic violence services, or women in prisons, changing rooms, vulnerable people. There's been no conversation. There has been no discussion. There's been no debate. So I'm sure maybe Nicola really believes that, because maybe the 6 people that are allowed to speak to Nicola tell Nicola that everybody in Scotland believes that. But the rest of Scotland doesn't believe that. And if the First Minister really believed that the vast majority of Scotland supported this, then she would put it in front of the Scottish people. She didn't. She will not. She'll at every point try to keep it on the down low. And what she wants to do is lecture people that they're somehow being bigoted, transphobic or racist, which is the new go-to for you disagree with me. It's because you're a very, very bad person and you're a bigot. You know,
where are we with the First Minister? Is she maintaining her popularity from one COVID briefing to the next? Because that really is the thing that has boosted her popularity among the people. Is she a misunderstood saint or a Teflon tyrant?
I think she's a sanctimonious siren. I'm a nationalist. I joined the SNP because I want my country to be independent. Now, we're four separate people here, different people. I feel that I put my constitutional interests above my class interests. I'm a working class woman, proud of it. I represent a working class area, working class men and women who I feel have been more and more left behind by the SNP, who want to call themselves, you want to call yourself progressive, reform tax. Prove to me you're a progressive. Don't, the SNP's idea of progressive policies are tinkering around the edges. For me, they're a distraction. They're smoke and mirrors to keep people talking about this, because then nobody's holding her accountable for not delivering what she's elected to deliver, which is independence for Scotland.
I don't know. It's like people are voting for the SNP to vote for Labour, kind of out of habit. That's who they vote for. I mean, I've had people say to me, "Oh, you're having a go at Nicola Sturgeon, but look at all the votes that we got." But these people, like I say, I think we've got to the stage where they're kind of voting from habit, and these votes are not as solid. Not being Boris Johnson is not really an election strategy. No. They're benefiting from how bad everybody else is.
Karen, Ian Lawson speculated that the First Minister might be gone by the end of this year, perhaps, but probably, most definitely, she'll be gone in 2023. That's his guess. If she did leave by the end of this year, what would her legacy be? What has she achieved?
Nothing. She's achieved absolutely nothing. Well, I am not. Do you know? I used to be a fan. Well, not a fan, but I used to really, really like her. I met her in the Buchanan Street steps, and I think it was 2015. And I was up there trying to save the steps right enough. I wasn't up there to listen to her, and I kind of had shouted. I was in the middle of a media scrum, and I wanted her to do something about the steps, because when I was going to university up there, these steps, because there was no seats or anything, and these steps at Buchanan Street, see the concert hall? Yeah. They were used by everybody. They were used by people, like sitting having a lunch, but they were used by elderly. And I was working with elderly at the particular time, and I thought they need somewhere to go. So obviously I pushed my way forward and I shouted on her. And she kind of looked at me and I said, "Can you do something with these steps?" And she grabbed my hand and she squeezed it, and I thought, right, okay. And a couple of months might not have been anything to do with Nicola, but a couple of months they were saved. But the person then to the person now are two entirely different people to me. Yeah. But this is from an observant point of view. She has achieved nothing. Education is failing. It's failing. I've got friends with children at school, and it's an absolute disgrace. She has focused all her attention on, and okay, the pandemic needs to be focused on, but not all consuming. No. Not all consuming. We're at the detriment of everything else. To me, her legacy will be, look at me. I always call her the big I am. Look at me, I'm Nicola Sturgeon. Where she goes about in the bus, and it's her. Instead of the party, instead of, say, pushing independence, that was kicked into long grass. I mean, goodness me. Yeah. It's kicked into long grass. We can't find it anymore, but I don't think she'll have a good legacy at all. Even now, when you said a popularity, 2020, her popularity was absolutely, what I would say, like 99%, absolutely strong, because she was giving her updates and everything. And I was getting in there because obviously I was wanting to gauge the people's reaction. It was great and everything, and love you, Nicola. But see, from 2020 to now, wow, she is not popular at all. And I think, me personally, the thing that will bring her down is not, the independence. It'll be the GRA, because people are not on with it at all. Not as many people as she thinks, as those who are pushing it thinks. Everybody, yes, you can do what you like and be what you like, but you cannot, say, impose it on other people to the point where we don't have a view. We're not allowed a view. We're not allowed a point of view or anything. And I think that'll be not only her downfall, but if they're not careful, it'll be the SNP's downfall as well, in my opinion, because I'm listening.
They seem prepared
online,
to...
but outside, listening to people who are getting more and more, especially mums, are really, really getting to the stage where they're what do I tell my daughter? What do I tell, it's, I think that'll be the downfall.
That was another topic we didn't touch on. We probably don't have time for that. Chief of the Scottish Parents Organisation is quoted as saying that the health and wellbeing survey is not fit for purpose in schools. But the SNP plough on regardless. Listen, we've really run over time. I'm really sorry. Appreciate everyone's time. Final comments on any subject, anyone?
Go behind, obviously, because I'm media, right? So I studied media. Go behind the headlines and see what they're not telling you. And if they're attacking somebody, ask yourself why. What are they doing that they're attacking them for? Because obviously there might be saying something that the public need to know that they don't want you to know. So that's my last thoughts and stuff for the audience.
Michelle?
My last thoughts, I'm going to make it about what's Nicola's legacy going to be, because what I think she inherited, why I think she did so well, part of that is because she didn't have a credible opposition. But what she did is she inherited a movement that was organised, that was dynamic, that was engaged, that was raring to go to win independence. And because of that, lots of people swallowed the idea that attacking Nicola was attacking independence itself, which is unhealthy for everyone, Nicola included. I fear that the legacy will be an education system, a judiciary, and a law system that was the envy of the world is now seen as, and it was with good reason. We are the country of the Enlightenment. We were. My fear is that we look like a Mickey Mouse. I hope she goes soon because I fear, because it's not about Nicola and it's not about the SNP, it's about independence. It really is. I mean, I am in the Alba party, but I'll vote for whoever's giving me independence, whoever's giving Scotland the chance to have a reset. I don't believe in making heroes out of individuals. The SNP, when it was working well, was working well on the backs of all of us. All my work, your work, Gordon's work, the people, I don't know if Karen, if you were in the SNP, but the campaign work that we put in for years, it was built on the back of that, on all of us. So I would hope to anybody who's listening here, if you have issues with the SNP, it's fair enough. If you have issues with Alba, also fair enough. Or any other party, don't let that turn you away from fighting for independence. If the vehicle you've chosen is not delivering what you need to deliver, then you take that up with them or you join another one. But don't give up. Don't turn away. We need you more than ever.
Listen, everyone, thanks for today, your contributions, and we'll talk again soon.
Right, thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye.